You are consuming success. You're not producing it. Every morning you put on your headphones. You listen to a billionaire talk about mindset. You hear a founder describe their struggle. You nod along. You feel inspired. Then you do nothing. Diary of a CEO is not making you successful. It is making you feel successful. There's a difference. One leads to action. The other leads to delusion. By the end of this video, you will understand why passive consumption of success content is destroying your execution muscle. You will learn the specific ratio that separates successful people from professional consumers. You will see them. Math of why listening to 10 podcasts a week without action makes you less successful than someone who listens to 0 and works. And you will walk away with a framework for transforming every piece of content from entertainment into execution. Welcome to the CEO Brain Library. High signal briefs for leaders with no time to waste. Here's the truth you've been avoiding. You are not learning. You are performing learning. Let's get into it. There's an industry built around your desire to be successful without doing the work. They call it content, podcasts, interviews with billionaires. Here's what it really is. Success porn. And you are addicted. Watching someone work out does not make you fit. Listening to someone build a business does not make you wealthy. Reading about discipline does not make you disciplined. You have confused consumption with learning. Learning requires application. Consumption requires only ears. Every episode of Diary of a CEO you listen to without taking action makes you less likely to take action. Why? Because your brain gets the dopamine hit of I'm doing something productive without the actual productivity. This is your CEO brief on why passive success content is actively harming your execution. Because the most dangerous addiction is the one that feels like growth. Let me give you a simple formula. It will change how you see every piece of content you consume. The consumption to execution ratio. For every hour you consume content, how many minutes do you execute on what you learned? If you listen to a 1-hour podcast and take 0 action, your ratio is 60 to 0. That is not learning. That is entertainment with a superiority complex. A ratio of 60 to 0 makes you less successful than someone who never listened to the podcast and worked for that hour. The math is brutal. Listen to 3 podcasts a day. That's 3 hours. If you take 0 action, you have lost 3 hours. Not just lost. You have also built a habit of passive consumption. Now multiply that by a year. 1,000 hours of listening. 0 hours of implementing. You are not closer to success. You are 1,000 hours further away. The lesson. The minimum viable ratio is 60 to 5. 1 hour of consumption requires 5 minutes of implementation. Write down one thing you learned. Do one thing differently. Take one action. Below 60 to 5, you are not learning. You're numbing. Here is why you cannot stop. Your brain releases dopamine when you feel productive. Listening to a success podcast triggers that same reward. Circuit is actually doing the work. Your brain cannot tell the difference between learning and doing. Both feel productive. Both release dopamine. But only one moves you forward. You are the rat. The podcast is the lever. The dopamine is the pellet. And you are pressing play over and over. Getting fatter on information, starving for execution. Diary of a CEO is not your enemy. Neither are any of the other shows. Your addiction to them without action is the enemy. The fix is not to stop consuming. The fix is to attach execution to every consumption. 1 podcast equals 1 action. 1 chapter equals 1 implementation. 1 interview equals 1 experiment. The lesson. Dopamine is not the problem. Untethered dopamine is. Tie every hit to a physical action. Or keep pressing the lever and wondering why you're not moving. Execution is a muscle. You're letting it atrophy. Every time you choose to listen instead of do, you weaken your ability to act. Every time you bookmark instead of build, you train your brain that consumption is sufficient. Think about it. When was the last time you listened to a podcast and immediately implemented one thing? Now got inspired to think about it. Actually did something. That is you. Information rich, action poor. Your head is full of other people's wisdom. Your hands are empty of your own work. The most successful people I know consume less than you. Much less. But they execute more in one day than you do in a month. Evidence. Compare 2 people. Person A listens to 10 podcasts a week and takes 0 action. Person B listens to 0 podcasts and works 10 hours a week. Who is more successful? Person B. Every time. Because execution compounds. Consumption does not. The lesson. Stop trying to optimize your inputs. Start optimizing your outputs. Your execution muscle is starving. Feed it. Here is the truth you will not admit. You are not preparing. You are hiding? Every podcast you listen to is another excuse not to start. I need more information. I need to understand the landscape. I need to learn from people who have done it. No, you need to do it. Imperfectly. Badly. Wrong. And then fix it. You cannot learn to swim on dry land. You cannot learn to build a business from a podcast. Diary of a CEO is a tool. You're using it as a shield. A shield against the terrifying possibility that you might try and fail. The lesson. Stop preparing. Start doing. The next time you reach for your headphones, ask, am I learning or am I hiding? If the answer is hiding, put the headphones down. Go do one thing. Anything. The action itself will teach you more than the next 100 episodes. You talk about success more than you build it. You share podcast clips. You quote billionaires. You recommend episodes to your friends. Why? Because talking about success gives you social validation without the risk of failure. You get the status of being in the know without the vulnerability of actually trying. Your podcast's recommendations are not wisdom. They are costume jewelry. They look like success. They are not. The person who builds something mediocre and fails is more successful than the person who can recite every episode of Diary of a CEO. Evidence. No one has ever built a company by being well listened. They built companies by being well executed. Your podcast library is not your resume. Your actions are. The lesson. The next time you want to share a podcast clip, share an action you took instead. One action is worth 1,000 recommendations. Enough diagnosis. Here's the cure. The 3-2-1 action framework. Use it for every piece of content you consume. 3 takeaways. Write down 3 specific things you learned. Not vague summaries. Specific sentences. Stephen Bartlett said that. 2 actions. Write down 2 specific actions you will take based on those takeaways. I will. Not I should. Not I might. I will. 1 message. Send 1 message to someone. Tell them what you learned and what you are going to do. Accountability is not optional. It is structural. Without the 3-2-1 framework, you are not consuming content. You are watching television with better branding. The framework takes 10 minutes. 10 minutes per episode. If you are not willing to spend 10 minutes implementing, you should not spend 60 minutes listening. The rule. No consumption without implementation. No listening without action. No podcast without a message. The lesson. The 3-2-1 framework transforms content from entertainment into leverage. Use it or lose it. Let me give you something no podcast will. A challenge that will change your trajectory. The 30-day execution challenge. For 30 days, you consume 0 success content. No Diary of a CEO. No How I Built This. No Tim Ferriss. No books, no courses, nothing. Instead, you execute. Every day you do one thing that moves your business forward. Not research. Not planning. Not learning. Doing. You will feel withdrawal. You will feel anxious. You will feel like you're falling behind. You are not. You are finally catching up. After 30 days, you will have taken 30 actions. That is 30 more actions than you would have taken with the podcast on. I have watched a dozen CEOs to do this challenge. Every single one reported the same thing. They got more done in 30 days than in the previous 6 months. The lesson. You do not need more information. You need more implementation. Try the challenge. Or keep listening. Your choice. 3 things. No excuses. Do them this week. First, audit your consumption. How many hours of podcasts did you listen to last week? How many actions did you take? Calculate your ratio. You will be horrified. Second, implement the 3-2-1 framework. Pick 1 episode you have already listened to. Write 3 takeaways. 2 actions. 1 message. Send the message today. Third, try 1 day of 0 consumption. Tomorrow, no podcast. No book. No course. just execution. See how much you'll get done. You will be shocked. That's an execution upgrade. Zero costs, zero permission. The only thing stopping you is your addiction to feeling productive instead of being productive. Diary of a CEO is not making you successful. It is making you feel successful. There is a difference. One leads to action. The other leads to delusion. The most dangerous addiction is the one that feels like growth. You have been addicted to the feeling of learning. You've forgotten how to do. The person who listens to 0 podcasts and builds 1 business is more successful than the person who listens to 1,000 podcasts and builds nothing. The 5 delusions you must abandon. 1. Listening is learning. No. Learning is doing after listening. 2. I need more information. No. You need more implementation. 3. I'm preparing to start. No. You are hiding from starting. 4. This podcast is valuable. It is, but only if you act on it. 5. I'll start tomorrow. No. Start today. Right now. Now, out of all 5 delusions, which one is keeping you stuck? Let us know in the comments. And as a reward for those of you who made it through, because most people click away when confronted with their own inaction. Here's your well-deserved bonus. Everything you learned today is useless if you don't act today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. The difference between successful people and professional consumers is not intelligence. It is not access. It is not information. It is action. One action. Then another. Then another. You have everything you need. You have had it for years. You have been hiding behind podcasts, books, and courses. Stop hiding. Start building. This is CEO Brain Library. High signal briefs for leaders with no time to waste. If this landed, and it probably made you uncomfortable, subscribe. Until next time, stop listening. Start doing.